Good morning from Sharon, and I'm here to do the Bible reading this morning. Before we get on to the main reading for today, we're doing a 4-week series, and they're based around a verse in Jeremiah, which is Jeremiah 6:16, and it's stand at the crossroads and look, ask for the ancient paths, ask where the good way is, and walk in it, and you will find rest for your souls. So we're sort of going to have a little bit of a memory verse, and when we get onto the craft later on in the service, we'll be looking at that verse again. Okay? So our reading today is from 1 Kings 19, and it's verses 9 to 25. And this is about Elijah on the run. Sitting alone, exhausted and terrified, Elijah couldn't believe how quickly things had changed. Only yesterday he had led the people of Israel in an amazing victory against the prophets of the false god Baal. God had showed up in power, the prophets of Baal had lost and felt miserable. Elijah was on top of the world. God is so awesome, he thought. But Queen Jezebel was not impressed. She threatened to kill Elijah, so suddenly the excitement was over. Elijah was running away. He ran and kept running until here he was, no longer surrounded by celebrating friends, but hiding and alone in a cave. But God had not forgotten Elijah or given up on him. "Elijah," God called, "what are you doing here?" And Elijah gave a little speech about how miserable life was now and how he felt abandoned. And so God said, "Go out of the cave, stand on the mountaintop, and I will meet you there." So as Elijah stood in the entrance of the cave, a violent wind passed by and shook the hills around. But God was not in the wind. Then there was an earthquake and fire, but God was not in those either. Then there was a whispering voice. Elijah knew that was the voice of God. So he wrapped his cloak around his face, went out of the cave, and stood on the mountaintop as God had told him. God asked Elijah the same question. "Elijah, what are you doing here?" So Elijah repeated his speech about how miserable life had become and how he was afraid for his life. He felt defeated, finished. But God wasn't feeling defeated. He had not finished, and God still had work for Elijah to do. And God gave Elijah 3 more special jobs to do. "Elijah, go and anoint Hazael as the next king of Syria and Jehu as the next king of Israel. And also appoint Elisha as my next prophet. He will take over from you." "There is going to be great trouble in Israel," God said, "but I will save all those who have been faithful to me and have not worshipped false gods." And Elijah, once more full of courage and energy, took off on his mission. He was no longer running away. He was running towards all that God had asked him to do. And so on to Jenny, who's going to give us some words on that story.